And then they have cans of soup. And then they have cans of soup. Soup. And they throw the cans of soup. That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick, it's too heavy. But a can of soup, you can really put some power into that, right? And then when they get caught, they say, no, this is soup from my family. They're so innocent. This is soup from my family. It's incredible. And you have people coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup, and they lay it on the ground, and the anarchists take it and they start throwing it at our cops, at our police. And if it hits you, that's worse than a brick because it's got force. It's the perfect size. It's like made perfect. And when they get caught, they say, no, this is just soup from my family. And then the media says, this is just soup. These people are very, very innocent. They're innocent people.
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting, pigs in a blanket, talking about police. Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon.
And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you'd like to see help out, if not both the other way, give me a look.
We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling. It's a little trolling. We do a little trolling. We do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling. Bernie Sanders was very upset. Why would he be there? Why? Because I want to win. I want to keep everybody.
Running against the worst candidate in the history of presidential politics puts pressure on me. Can you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know. The world is actually a small piece of the universe, right? But you have to go home now. You have to have peace. They had a very bad original concept. It was carried out poorly, and the cover-up was one of the worst in the history of cover-ups. It's very simple. Bad deal, should have never been thought of. Somebody really messed up, and they had the worst cover-up ever. And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint, when they thought about it.
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you...
I'm about to be 34 and I have no family. I'm about to be 34 and I have no family.
No, seriously, hot sauce. I've been eating a lot of hot sauce, a lot of raw peppers and hot sauce.
It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear word.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
I liked beer. I still like beer. But I did not drink beer to the point of blacking out.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by the you know the thing.
Isn't it wonderful to allow protesting? No.
In person, in my office, in Philadelphia. They felt pretty comfortable after day two. They felt pretty comfortable after day two. They felt pretty comfortable after day two.
Everybody comes in your grandmother year. Everybody comes in your grandmother year.
We've ended the war on American energy. We were in war. And we've ended the war on beautiful, clean coal, one of our great natural resources.
They had a very bad original concept. It was carried out poorly, and the cover-up was one of the worst in the history of cover-ups. Very simple. Bad deal, should have never been thought of. Somebody really messed up, and they had the worst cover-up ever. And where it should have stopped is at the deal standpoint when they thought about it, because whoever thought of that idea, I think, is in big trouble. Everybody comes in your grandmother year.
I admit to always improving.
$7 million for reef fish management. $25 million to combat Asian carp. $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico.
No, seriously, hot sauce. I've been eating a lot of hot sauce, a lot of raw peppers and hot sauce.
Early in the morning, they went to the table with the black robe, the black shield, and they pulled out the vote.
Everybody digging my chili when I'm laying down? That is not true.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
Everybody comes in your grandmother year.
Hello, users, and welcome to another episodic installation of Above It Motherfucking All. Hello, hello, hello. How's everyone doing this morning? I'm pretty good. I'm satisfied. I am of satisfactory satisfaction. You know, in elementary school, there were certain things that we wouldn't get graded on, like letter-wise. We would get graded on, like, satisfaction versus very satisfaction. I guess satisfactory. And then it was like unsatisfactory, right? So I was always very satisfactory until I became very unsatisfactory. And I remember that moment in time where, like, my life went from very satisfactory to very unsatisfactory, and I've been struggling ever since. But I got some news here today. I would like to branch out a little bit into doing some non-local news as well. And so, like, that's something that I'm going to get into. Toddler accidentally shoots 2-year-old sister. Interesting. 1 killed, 13 injured in overnight shootings in Chicago. All right. Family members identify child killed in apparent road rage. All right. Rescue crews recover body of woman who fell from capsized boat. Lord have mercy. What is, like, again, what is with, like, these, like, what's with the news? Like, is like the world, like, actually falling apart and I just don't know? Like, because I've just been outside protesting. Like, I just don't know that the world's actually just falling apart. Car hits 2 pedestrians, killing 1 before crashing into another. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Husband charged in death of missing Connecticut mom. 2 dead in early morning crash. Like, what the fuck is this garbage, man? Mass shooting leaves 1 person dead, 4 injured. Man dies in warehouse explosion. I'm just like scrolling, like we're still at like 13 hours ago, man. Like all of this has happened in the last 12 hours. Like I'm just like throwing this out there. North Carolina mom charged with murder after dead 4-year-old girl found buried behind home. What the fuck is wrong with these people? That was 19 hours ago. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Lord have mercy. These motherfuckers just keep killing each other for no goddamn reason. Like, is it like just a natural evolution? Like, we're just gonna have like a percentage of humanity that's just like, you know, gonna kill each other for no reason? Right? And so like as population like continues to grow, right, that percentage just gets larger and larger. Like what's 1% of a billion versus 1% of 7 billion? You know what I mean? Like, is this like just like a natural percentage thing? Or like, you know, is it just that we're seeing more people kill each other because more people exist? Like, what's going on here, man? Shit's crazy. It's out of control. There's no control in the world. Alright, let's get into the local news. I love local news. Actually, I've got like multiple iterations of local news. Let's get into this first. The New York Times did a report on the video clips. So the New York Times did a report on the little snippets of videographic experience that we have out of the death of Andrew Brown Jr., the police assassination and execution. Now, I want to remind everyone that, again, this happened just down the street from me. This is some crazy stuff here. So real quick time relapse here, or like time whatever. So initially, after like a week, they showed 20 seconds of footage to the family. And then after about 30 days or 28, I think it was 28 days of protesting, they released little snippets, like about 40 or I think it was like 2 minutes or so of public footage in regards to the shooting assassination by police of Andrew Brown. And the district attorney, Andrew Womble, has been trying to spin a story before the tape got released, trying to prime people into believing something that isn't there. And so the New York Times did a report on this, and so I just thought I would read it. A New York Times review of the body camera footage showing the fatal police shooting of Andrew Brown Jr. in April raises questions about whether officers were in imminent danger when they used lethal force as he drove away to avoid arrest. The officers have not been charged in the shooting. Republican Andrew Womble, the district attorney of North Carolina's 1st Judicial District, determined that, I love that word, by the way. I want to like this show is like based in media critique. Like you need to, like if you're reading the New York motherfucking Times, you need to know what words you need to look out for, okay? Determined. Now what, like determined, like I know, right? You might be thinking, okay, determined, what's so special? Okay. Well, all right, determined. What does that mean exactly? All right, let's go get, like, I know, just bear with me here. Like, let's go get, like, you know, the actual definition, determined. Like, what is that? Having made a firm decision and being resolved not to change it, right? So, okay, they determined, right? Like, now I want you to understand, like, okay, so they're the district attorney and they determined that the shooting was justified, right? Like, now, like, why didn't they use a word like claims? Why didn't they say District Attorney Andrew Womble claims they were justified? You know what I mean? Why doesn't it say that in Andrew Womble's personal opinion or in Andrew Womble's professional opinion? No, it says the word determined. And I want to be like, you know, like the way that mainstream media loves to do, what they love to do is they love to just like repost police reports, right? And just like give super like large amounts of deference to the police. So even in an article like that is ostensibly critical of police action, they still default to certain kinds of language. Like, yes, the district attorney determined that, you know, it was justified or whatever, you know, like, no, there was no determination that was made. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's what you need to understand. This isn't a determination. This is someone's opinion, and it's objectively incorrect. That would be like if it were raining, and I said, wow, it's really hot out today. I wish it were raining, while there's, like, rain pouring on my head. I mean, I can determine that, you know, there's no rain, but that doesn't mean anything if there's rain pouring on my head. And so I just want to be very clear here. Like, the respect that the authority of being a district attorney people give, the deference that they give, is my problem, right? Andrew Womble is a person. He is not the district attorney, and that does not make him like a superhuman with mega analytical, like, no. He is a person that got elected by racists to be a racist in the position of district attorney. That is his role. He is not like some super hyper duper like logical, like, you know, mastermind of the law and knows every, like, he is not trying to be a neutral arbiter is my point here. This guy is a racist elected by racists to be racist. That, like, you need to know that. So when they say that he's determined it, when they say, like, you know, these kinds of language, it provides to you a subtle deference to the position of district attorney. Fuck the district attorney. What the, like, all my homies hate the district attorney. The guy's a fucking square. He's a loser, right? Who gives a shit what he has to say, right? And so that's what I just want to specify here. So I don't give a fuck what his opinion is. That doesn't change anything, right? It's going to change the progression of the legal case for the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a political commentator, right? I'm a human being. What I see in this tape is I see murder. I don't give a fuck what Andrew Womble's stupid-ass determination on the murder is. The shit's murder, okay? And I just wanted to be very clear about that. So they determined that they were justified in their actions because Mr. Brown was using his car as a, quote, deadly weapon. He said police body camera videos clearly illustrate. Now, again, the terminology that Womble's using here, quote, clearly illustrate. Now, this is gaslighting. I want you to understand. Now, he said this before the video got, like, you know, he was setting up the narrative before the video got released. You know what I mean? Right? So he's trying to prime people to believe a certain narrative, and then when he releases the little snippets of heavily redacted footage, that the people that he's already primed are going to be primed, and therefore they're ready to consume the narrative, and they're not going to be skeptical about it. That's what he's doing. So I want to be very clear about that. It clearly illustrates the officers who used deadly force on Andrew Brown did so reasonably, and only when their lives were in danger. Now, again, that's factually. Now, again, I want to be very clear. There is a distinction between opinion and fact. Right, there is a distinction. Now, a lot of people think that the whole world's an opinion, like just our perception of reality is just so inconsistent with reality itself that like everything, like even the sky is an opinion. Like, now some people believe that. Me personally, I think that there's some objectivity in the world, right? And so this is a situation where, again, I perceive this, right? Now, I know, but like, I don't think that this is an opinion. This is not like, it clearly illustrates that they use deadly force reasonably. No. That's not the, no. That is false. That is not true. That is not like an opinion. That is just objectively false. That is not actually accurate. Now, if you want to say that there was a shot that was reasonable, you could say theoretically that the first shot was reasonable. Theoretically. I'll listen to the argument. I disagree with your argument, but I think it's well within the realm of debate. Now, me personally, I don't think the police should have had those weapons there to begin with, let alone weapons in general. I don't think that they should have even tried to serve in a warrant if someone was driving away. Those are all my opinions, right? But if you want to make the claim that the first shot was somewhat justified, okay, I'll listen to you. But to make the claim that all the shots were justified, including the one that shot him in the back of the head, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, I mean, like, you live in a fantasy world. That's not, like, again, you don't live in the real world. The sky is blue, motherfucker. The sky is not polka dot. You need to understand that. And so that's where I just want to be very clear here. Mr. Brown's family members and their lawyers have described the shooting as an execution. A review of a slowed down body camera footage by the Times shows that 13 of the 14 gunshots, including the fatal one, were fired as Mr. Brown was driving away from officers, not at them. Now again, if you want to say the first shot is justified, now again, I disagree. I want to make it very clear. But I do think I understand why someone would want to debate that. I understand how a human could come to the conclusion that the first shot was just, I get it, and I want to make you change your mind, but I respect that that's your starting position, right? But again, Womble said all the shots were justified, including the kill shot, the one that executed him in the back of the head. That is clearly not true. That is so verifiably false that I need you to understand that there is a difference, right? You should not be giving deference to the position of district attorney. They're just a human like you and like me, and you need to look at what they've said, their history, who votes for them, what's their constituency, what is their role, what have they done previously in that position, why are they there to begin with, right? And when you look at all of those questions, again, the conclusion that I gain is that they are a racist, right? Elected by racists to be racist. That's my conclusion to this. Now, again, let's continue. Sheriff Tommy Wooten, II of Pasquotank County said that, quote, while the deputies did not break the law, we all wish that things could have gone differently, much differently. Here's what the videos of the 20-second interaction show. Now, again, I want to provide people backstory for Tommy Wooten, II. This motherfucking bitch-ass bitch motherfucker, a year ago when George Floyd was murdered, came up to one of our demonstrations in solidarity and said that nothing like this would ever happen in Elizabeth City. This motherfucker, Sheriff Tommy Wooten, II, he gave us his personal cell phone number. I have his cell phone number. I have it. Right? But again, lo and behold, less than a year later, something like that did happen in Elizabeth City. It was 1,000% his fault. He signed off on it. He hired the murderers. And then again, remember when he gave us his cell phone number? Hasn't answered a single phone call. Not a single one. He only fields people through if they're press. And only specific kinds of press. And he'll only do Facebook Lives. So a year ago, he sat up on a soapbox, gave away his cell phone number as a PR propaganda device. And then again, as soon as push comes to shove, he's nowhere to be found. So I want to be very clear here. You need to understand the history of these people. The police officers arrive at a Pasquotank County Sheriff's Office pickup truck at Mr. Brown's house at 8:23 a.m. on Wednesday, April 21st, to execute a search and arrest warrant. According to the prosecutor, the police team had been briefed this morning that Mr. Brown, 42, had previous connections and a history of resisting arrest. Now again, what does that mean? A history of resisting arrest? What? Okay, so if you're going to arrest someone, right? For them to resist arrest, you're going to need to arrest them for some. So what were you trying to arrest them for? I mean, I guess their answer in this instance would be drugs. But again, what does that mean? You have a history of resisting arrest. That's so vague. Like, I have ran away from police before. Does that mean I have a history of resisting arrest? If someone, the only thing that they knew about me was that I was black and I resisted arrest, right? And I'm a white cop who hates black people and thinks that they're criminals, right? And I know that this black guy resists arrest. You know, that's going to prime me into engaging in that situation in a slightly different fashion. So when they say that this person, Andrew, has a history of resisting arrest, that doesn't mean anything, right? The only thing that is it's a purposeful, vague, like, kind of notion that puts these people against them. It puts them in a mindset where they think that Andrew is going to be the enemy by default, that he's not just another human being, that he's a criminal, he's an escaped slave, and he needs to be taken down. That's what it puts them in the mindset of. And again, look at the fucking way that they're on this truck. They've got AR-15s at the ready on a pickup truck. Again, I want to put this all into perspective. Like, even if you think their first shot was justifiable, right? I ask you, why were they there like this? Why did they have like 7 officers with AR-15s? Why did they say that he had a history of resisting arrest? What led to this, right, moment happening? And why? That's what I'm interested in. I'm way less interested in what Andrew Brown did in these 30, 40 seconds that his life ended in. I'm way less interested in doing or in analyzing that, and way more interested in why these people were here to begin with. Now, I want to be very clear, right? I don't know if people in this chat or watching this video have ever been in a life or death situation, right? I have been in life or death situations, and I can tell you this right now. When you're in a life or death situation, you do not process things very coherently, consistently, you are not, I would say, in a sober state of mind. If you are fearing for your life, I would say you are not in a sober state of mind. Unless you've got like extreme experience with being in life or death situations, which most people do not, right? And so if you see a bunch of motherfuckers with machine guns or, assault weapon, whatever the fuck, right? Look at these fucking things, man. Like, come on, like they're cartoon character bullshit. If you see a bunch of these motherfuckers, right, coming toward you, right, screaming at you, you don't know what the hell they're screaming, right? They're pointing guns at you, right? You are not in a sober state of reality, and that's the thing that I need, like, police to know, and I need people to understand about police interactions. Police, right? Their whole training in their job should be to understand that, and to expect that, and to deal with it, and to de-escalate, right? If someone has someone with a gun pointed at them, I've had guns pointed at me. I have had police point guns at me. I've had police point guns at me and threaten to kill me and members of my family. Okay? I have been in this situation. And I can tell you right now that when that happens, and when that happened to me personally, I was not in a sober state of mind. Right? I was panicking. I was scared. And I did not know how to react. Now again, if I were black, I could be dead. If I were a man, I could be dead, right? But it just so happens I wasn't, and therefore I'm still alive, right? And so I want to be very clear here. If you are in a position where you have people pointing guns at you and you don't know why they're pointing guns at you and you don't know if they're going to kill you, it puts you in like your brain enters a different mindset. And I need you to understand that, right? So if someone is fearing for their life, they will do things that will not necessarily seem rational. Right, so driving their car in this fashion like Andrew did, you might not think it makes sense, right? But have you ever been in that situation where you have people pointing guns at you? You are not calculating on what makes sense. You are trying to survive. You want to live, right? And that is why the situation here with police in America is so horrible, is because police do not de-escalate, they escalate. They bring something from level 5 to level 37. And then that makes people melt down, and then that's their excuse to kill them. Mr. Brown ignores officers' repeated commands to stop the car. And again, the car was closed. The doors were closed, right? Like, these people have body, like, gear on. Like, they're probably not screaming, like, totally, like, enunciating properly, right? But again, none of that matters. Like, in the way that they treat this, if the police officer says something, it's done. Now, was the officer clear? I don't know. Could the other person hear the officer? I don't know. Did the officer actually say what they claim they said? I don't know. The only thing that matters in these reports is that the officer said something. And that's what I need you to understand, right? The idea of the perspective of the other person is never questioned. It's not part of the equation. They don't care if Andrew Brown heard the officer's commands. They only care if the officer gave commands, right? And now again, I have been in a situation where I've had multiple police officers point guns at me and threaten to kill me and my family, okay? During that situation, I had multiple police officers tell me different things. I had a police officer tell me to get on the ground. I had a police officer tell me to walk toward them. I had a police officer tell me to put my hands up. I had a police officer to tell me to put my hands behind my back, right? All different police officers giving me all different, commands. So, but again, they're not going to view that and say, oh, well, we gave them 5 different commands, or like they were all separately worded, or they didn't have time to properly understand which command, or they all like melted together because, we're all speaking at the same time and it's a high stress. No. All they say is one officer said one thing and that's all that matters. Right, so if I were shot because I didn't put my hands in the air when I had cops pointing guns at me telling me to put my hands in my air, right, even if I put my hands behind my back, and even if another officer told me to put my hands behind my back, it still wouldn't matter because I put my hands in the air or whatever. Like, it still wouldn't matter because that officer told me to put my hands behind my back or whatever. You understand what I'm trying to say here. The only thing that matters is that the officer said something. Then, boom, they can move on to the next thing, right? The way police view these interactions is it's like hitting certain thresholds, like milestone goals, right? So you get the gun, you jump out of the car. The first thing you need to do is issue your command. Once you've issued your commands, once you say like we're police, like get on the ground or whatever, that gives you more options. That opens up the box for you to do more things when it comes to lethal force, right? And we're going to get into this in a second here. The police put their hand on Andrew's vehicle. That is then their next milestone. They have then expanded the threshold of what is acceptable for them to do. Oh, I put my hand on their car, right? Okay, well, that means that the car made contact with me. Right, now again, we're going to use verbs in this instance. Now, I made contact with the car, the car made contact with me. Whatever, I'll figure out which one's more valuable to me to write it up in the report later. Well, the car and myself touched each other. We made mutual contact at some point. Now, again, it was all me extending my arm. It was 100% my actions, but that doesn't matter. The car and my skin and the car touched at some point. Therefore, that gives them the new milestone. They've successfully leveled up their interaction, and then that gives them the excuse that they need to kill, right? And then the one officer shooting, right, starting to shoot, gives the other officers the excuse that they need to kill, right? So again, the law says that you can kill when serving a warrant if danger is imminent or like it's incoming danger, right? Now again, the person that put their arm on the car put themselves in danger. Now again, they are technically in danger by the letter of the law. Now again, they put themselves in that danger, but that's a whole separate conversation. But the other officers, including the one that killed Andrew, were not in danger. So their argument is that their fellow officer was in danger, therefore, right? And again, it's all milestones. It's all leveling up police interactions to another point where it gives them more options. How can I turn this from, an arrest warrant to a free kill? I haven't killed anyone in a couple days. I'm itching. I want a free kill. How can I make this a free kill? They plan these things ahead of time. I need you to understand. There's a reason why we don't have the body camera footage for the whole drive. There's a reason we don't have the body camera footage from when they gear up to the moment that the gun is fired. There's a reason why we only have the body camera footage of the interaction, because they don't want you to know what kind of mindset they were in. They want to keep their state of mind a secret. They want to keep their intentions a secret. Well, guess what, motherfucker? I know how cops work. Right? We are on to you. We know how your fucking shit functions. But anyway, the officer briefly places his left hand on the hood of the car, and this is when another officer fires a shot that Mr. Womble said entered the front windshield of the car and was not fatal. Now again, if you want to make an argument about that one shot, I'll listen to it. I heavily disagree with it, but I'll listen to your argument, right? That contradicts a preliminary internal investigatory report which found that no bullet went through the windshield. Interesting. The video shows that there's a brief pause in the shooting while Mr. Brown steers his car between two officers. At this point, as Mr. Brown accelerates and drives away, 3 officers fire 13 more shots into the side and the rear of Mr. Brown's car. One of the shots is fatal, hitting Mr. Brown in the back of his head. While his hands were on the steering wheel, he was shot in the back of his head while fleeing. An unarmed man was shot in the back of the head while running away. I need you to understand, it doesn't matter if he's in a car. Do you not know how cars work? I've never driven a car in my life. But if he is driving away, now let's assume he wants to back up. Okay, he backs up. Well, he can't just go from driving 20 miles forward to backing up 30 miles with a snap of the finger. He has to slow down and enter reverse and then start reversing and then gain momentum and speed. Within that time period, police would be able to discern whether or not they are a threat. So if the car is driving away from them, it is impossible that they are in a threat position. It's just not, you're not, sorry, you're dumb. You're an idiot. But it gets worse. In justifying the police's use of lethal force, Mr. Womble said Mr. Brown drove recklessly and endangered the officers. Again, those words don't mean anything. Drove recklessly, okay. Well, I mean, look at the fucking extenuating circumstances, right? This guy's got fucking Klansmen pointing guns at his head. I would, if I were to drive and I had Klansmen, right, pointing guns at my head, I would probably be pretty reckless too, right? Like, so it's just so strange to me. And people read that and they'll go like, oh, he was driving recklessly. He also argued that they, quote, could not simply let him go. And now what does that mean? You couldn't let him go. Why not? Did Andrew Brown have secret information? And this is like the other thing about it, that like, why did they go in with AR-15 strapped to their chest to serve an arrest warrant in a city where 90% of arrest warrants are served by the local police? Now, I want to remind everyone, the Pasquotank County Sheriff's Department served this warrant. 90% of warrants that are served in Elizabeth City are served by the Elizabeth City Police Department. So why did the Sheriff's Department go out of their way to serve a warrant when that's not usually their jurisdiction? Now, that's not to say that they can't do so, but it's to say that that's very unusual. Now, why did they bring guns? Why did they kill this man within 30 seconds? And why is Womble saying they could not let him go? That leads me to believe that Andrew Brown knew something. That leads me to believe that if Andrew Brown had gotten away that day, that something else would have happened that would have put the cops in a bad position. This was a gang killing, is what this was. This was a group of hooded Klansmen jumping in to assassinate and lynch a black man because he knew too much. There is a reason why this shit is being covered up to holy hell. There's a reason why they just want you to forget about it. There's a reason why they're not charging anyone involved. There's a reason why they're lying about what's in the video and releasing parts of the video, like, you know, like they're just releasing video and then saying things that didn't happen on the video. Like, what? Right, so now what's in the parts of the video that weren't, like, if we know that Womble is lying, because we have like the 50 seconds of video, we know he's lying about that. How hard is he lying about the other hour and 50 minutes? How hard is he lying about the 6 other body camera angles from the other officers? Right? Like, that's what you need to understand. Right, so let me get more around this. This is another thing that's extremely important to note. The officers' actions may have violated their department's guidelines. The Pasquotank County Sheriff's Office use of force policy states that shooting at a moving vehicle is rarely effective and that the officer should fire at a moving vehicle only when the deputy reasonably believes that there is no other reasonable means available to avert the imminent threat of the vehicle. Now again, if you want to say the first shot falls into that category, I disagree with you, but okay. But when the car is driving away, what imminent threat? Once the vehicle has driven past the officers that they are now to the side of it or behind it, it is going away from them. There is no more imminent threat. Exactly. Beyond the shooting of Mr. Brown, the video showed that the officers may have placed some of their colleagues and others at risk, and their line of fire was a neighbor's house. And this is the other thing I want to talk about, that Womble has not mentioned in any capacity. They shot into a neighbor's house. Now, do you want to remember, let's go back in time a little bit. Remember when Breonna Taylor was assassinated by police? And then the officers that killed Breonna Taylor, one of them was charged, not with the murder of Breonna Taylor, because that's great. That's wonderful and that's amazing. But they were charged with wanton endangerment by shooting accidentally into the neighbor's apartment building. Do you remember that? They got charged not for killing Breonna Taylor. That's great. But for endangering the neighbor. Okay. Well, we already know that when when a black person is shot and killed by police, it doesn't matter. Who cares? No one gives a fuck, right? But what about the neighbor? We have a precedent, right? At least in Kentucky, we have a precedent where if you shoot into the neighbor's house on accident, that then something can happen. Not in North Carolina, apparently. Mr. Womble said that while the minivan was in the path of the bullets, there was no danger to the officers inside. Michael Anthony Gordon Sr., whose house was in the line of fire, told the Times that a bullet from the shooting entered his kitchen and that no one was home at the time. Mr. Womble stated that one shot fired by the police was believed to have ricocheted and hit the house. The district attorney's decision not to press charges closes a state-level criminal case, though a federal civil rights case is ongoing. And the protesters are demanding that the FBI investigate this murder because the state is corrupt. Right? Like, again, there is literally, like, no universe where you can justifiably say that all these cops, everything that they did is good. Like, you're not even going to charge the motherfucker with shooting into the neighbor's house. Are you kidding me? What if someone was home that morning? They don't know. How do they know? They don't know that information. What if someone was home? Did they even go to that neighbor's house to check on them? Did they even? Like, what if someone was shot and killed in this house and they were just left there to bleed out until, like, you know, their brother or their mother or their son came home, like, you know, 9 hours later? Like, but they don't care. And that's the thing about this. Why did police have these guns in the first place? Why did they have them? Why did they have them strapped to their chest in the first place? Why did they have them, like, why were they holding them in the first place? Right? Because when you do those things, you lead to them shooting more. And when they shoot more, it leads to this scenario where you shoot into someone's house. So it has nothing to do with the situation. Now, let's assume Andrew Brown was a mass murderer. Let's assume he had killed 7,000 people and he was on his way to 7,001. It's still, the police actions here are still unjustified. Right? So when you look at the fact that Andrew Brown really, at the end of the day, didn't do much wrong. And yes, is selling drugs, you know, a bad thing? Sure, it depends on who you're selling drugs to, what kind of drugs you're selling, right? That kind of stuff. But it's not a violent crime, per se. Right? It's not the same as showing up at someone's house with 7 Klansmen with fucking assault weapons firing willy-nilly into a school zone. Like, when you compare and contrast, right, the amount of potential harm and damage, dealing drugs, versus outfitting like a group of KKK members with guns and heavy artillery, right? When you look at which one has a net effect on society that is greater or worse, motherfucker, I promise you the police are going to be worse every single time. And so I just wanted to take the time to read this report and look at the video here because they did a nice little report about it. But, you know, I had to fix a few things. I had to set the record straight. But again, we need to understand that this was an assassination. This was an execution. This was a murder. And it doesn't matter what the district attorney says. It doesn't matter. Right? Because they are a racist, elected by racists, to act as a racist. They are there to obstruct. They are there to help the good old boys. Right? Andrew Brown wasn't a good old boy. Right? He didn't know jack shit. Or he wasn't jack shit in their eyes. Right? And so his life doesn't matter. His life is just the fucking fine print on a police report. Right? And it's just disgusting. And you can clearly see, even the video that Womble released himself clearly showcases an entirely different narrative. But that doesn't matter because he's going to lie about it. The cops are going to lie about it. They lie, they lie, they lie. It is their role, it is their job, it is their position, it is their reason to exist, is to lie, obstruct, and hurt everyone else. They are parasites. All police are parasites. They steal our tax dollars. They kill our brothers, they kill our mothers, they kill our fucking fathers. Right? And then they just have the audacity to gaslight you and tell you nothing's going on, bro. I'm sorry, but that's just, it's nah. I don't think so. I disagree with that. Anyway, I'm going to get into the protest recap pretty soon here. Womble sounds like a puppet name. I know, right? That's what I'm saying. Fucking Womble. Cops have guns because they are always meant to maintain order by killing and terrorizing Americans. That was the entire... Yes, exactly. An undercover cop bought the drugs. Entrapment. Yeah, that's not surprising. Womble sounds like some nasty kind of skin thing. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. So I want to talk about the recap, day 32 of protests in Elizabeth City over the assassination of Andrew Brown took place yesterday. I want to say apologies for the lack of quality in this thread. For whatever reason, I could not post video clips yesterday. I did have a bunch of video recorded, but I didn't post any clips because I just, by whatever, like 5G, 4G, whatever the fuck I have now, wasn't working. So I can only post videos. So I'm just going to give a recap from memory. What we did, real quick, the march was scheduled for 1 p.m., but the permit was scheduled for 5 p.m., and the city declined to change the permit from 5 p.m. to 1 p.m. Now, I want to say the police didn't do anything. They didn't arrest anyone. They didn't threaten arrest, right? So they understood that, you know, hey, don't fuck with us, bitch. I guess to some capacity they understood that. They viewed it as not worth engaging, I should say. So we marched down Erringhouse Street, which is, again, the main road of commerce where all the fast food restaurants are, all the big name chain restaurants, that kind of shit. We marched down and then back around and then back to public safety and then went home. I just want to say yesterday was so goddamn motherfucking hot. It was so fucking hot. We had some hardcore energy levels, though. Like, a lot of people were in cars. Like, we started off with some good, healthy numbers, and then people were like, bitch, motherfucker, I gotta get in my car for some air conditioning, right? But we had some really good high-energy chants, and, you know, we had a good time. We spread out and tried to, like, slowly take the road, because, again, we had a lot of people in cars, right? So we're trying to, like, slow down, that kind of stuff, and then, you know, we went back to public safety and plotted for tomorrow. So yesterday was, now I don't want to say it was uneventful. We had someone drive their car through the police line at some point. You know, we had a bunch of angry racists like yell at us and stuff. So it's like, you know, every day is a risk. And it just so happens by the grace of God, nothing like, you know, out of the ordinary happened yesterday. And that was good considering I didn't have the ability to post videos in real time. But again, I do have clips. I might post some later. We'll see. But either way, again, the protest, like, the idea is that as long as a demonstration happens at least once a day, we keep the momentum going and we're branching off into other forms of protest. And so, again, day 32 was relatively short. We marched for about, 2 hours. I mean, I guess it was relatively standard. It was just I didn't get any video footage. It was funny. On the way home, I was, like, so dehydrated. I ran into the dollar store that was on Erringhouse, and I bought an energy drink and then chugged it and then, like, ran back into the crowd. And then by the time the energy drink was kicking in, I was, like, popping off, and then, like, the march ended. But... it was a good time, and I just want to say, like, again, the most important aspect of protesting is to, like, learn your community, to meet the people that live in your community, to get to know more people, to talk to more people, to develop your relationships with people, to get more attached to people, to, be more comfortable being around with people, to, wanting to, help other people more, right? And so every single day that the protests occur, right, those bonds are being strengthened. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's an important thing to note. And so, again, even if protests, like, there are certain days that are a little bit laxer or have lulls, right, that the main goal of community, strengthening is always constantly being improved. And that is why, again, I say it's so important. Like, yes, should we be trying to branch out our protest actions more so? Absolutely, I want to. But at the end of the day, right, the most effective long-term strategic, like, thing that we can do is to learn each other's first names, right? Learn each other's histories, learn each other's strengths and weaknesses, and to be there for one another. That is the most important goddamn aspect of daily protests, right? And I feel like Elizabeth City is doing that perfectly, right? Because it's a small town, because we have like a group of like maybe 50 people that show up every single day, and we know who those 50 people are, and we're comfortable with those, like, and that's, it's getting to the point where, like, again, this is the beginning to something. Like, you need to understand, like, you're not going to get change. You're not going to change a system in 32 days. It's just not going to happen, right? But you can build the organizational apparatus that does eventually change the system, not within 30 days, but let's say within 30 weeks. You know what I mean? And so, like, that right now, at least in my opinion, is the most important goal. Right? Like, Robert Meads is not going to get arrested and charged with murder and convicted in the next month. That's not going to happen. If that did happen, or Robert Morgan, I should say. If that did happen, like, it would take a year. Look at what happened with George Floyd. It took, like, and that was expedited, right? Like, it's going to take at least a year for that to happen, if it does happen. And let's be honest, it's not going to happen, right? Right. Tommy Wooten is probably going to win re-election. Like, I'm just, like, throwing these things out there. Yes, it, like, would we love to, like, vote them out in big numbers or whatever? Like, that would be, wouldn't that be amazing? But you need to understand, Tommy Wooten's probably going to win re-election. Does that mean we shouldn't organize against that reality? Absolutely not. We should organize against that reality. But we have to expect, like, again, like, these people exist to hate us. They exist to hurt us, and they exist to break us up, and they exist to make us afraid of one another. Look at the drug war. Look, you've got, again, half of Elizabeth City thinks that Andrew Brown was like a hardcore gangbanger trying to, like, kill people. Why do they think that? How do you go from never hearing about any, like, someone ever existing ever to thinking that they're a murderer gangster who's going to kill your children? Right? The role of Andrew Womble, the role of the sheriff's department, the police, the role of these institutions, the judge, right? The role of these people is to sow that atomization and discontent. Now, again, do they want to break up the 50 people that show up every single day at a protest? Yes. Right? But that's not their only goal. They know that they've successfully brainwashed half of Elizabeth City. Now, again, half of the city voted for Trump, right? That kind of scenario. They know that about half of the city thinks that they know that. They know that half of the city thinks that Andrew Brown was a hardcore gangster criminal who, like, probably killed and beat, like, 30,000 kids or whatever. And, like, he was, you know, it's a good thing that he was executed because he was right about to go drive to do more crime. Like, they've successfully brainwashed a good chunk of Elizabeth City into thinking that, right? And so that's, like, you have to understand, that is their role. And what we have to do is overcome that. And it doesn't happen in 32 days. That happens over a long period of time. And the most important thing, right, again, because at the end of the day, what does convincing people that their neighbors are drug dealing criminals that are going to kill their family members, what does that do? It makes them afraid of their neighbors. What does that do? It makes them afraid of the black people. What does it do? It makes them afraid of people that live on, quote, the other side of town. That's what it does. It sows division, discontent, and it makes the community weaker. That's what it does. Right? And so, you know, I just wanted to get a little bit philosophical there. Yeah, so there you go. Hopefully y'all liked my little fucking soliloquy there. I like to think I'm decent at explaining my opinions on this subject. I hope that my words are clear enough and provide enough for people to understand what I am saying. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? Divide and rule, have them blaming each other while you have them working for you and sell them shit. Abso-fucking-lutely. You're the best at explaining. Oh, thank you so much. Is the state investigation over? I think so. I think the DA has the I think it's possible that the state could, like, fight it, but I don't think that they are. So I think that that's the position. Like, the can was kicked, and then the other person was like, all right, I've got this can in front of me. I could kick the can. But will I? So I think that's the situation that we're in, to my understanding. But my understanding is not extraordinarily well informed on that one, because I'm less interested in the nitty gritty minutia and more interested in the other stuff. But yeah, so that's to my understanding of the situation is that I think that they could do something, they're just not doing it. I think it's kind of like kicking the can. Like, does the FBI want to take this over? You know, what's the feeling in Pasquotank County? I mean, Pasquotank County is pretty fucking racist. I mean, they voted for a Republican sheriff who authorized and told their hired criminal assassins to murder someone in my neighborhood. So, I mean, the county is pretty garbage. The county has also just been ignoring us at all times. That kind of stuff. Yo, it's getting, like, really fucking sweaty in my room right now. Check my Twitter DM. Oh my lord. Thank you for the Twitter DMs. Thank you. All right, so let's get into some more fun news, right? Because I wanted to have something going on here. I want to have like a little bit of comic relief, right? I'm allowed, right? I mean, I guess it's not comic relief because, like, you know, it's kind of horrible, but I watched the video. The video is amazing. It made me cry a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. But only because that's me in the video, right? Like, the video's about me. Like, the whole point of Bodan's video is to elicit a reaction from me, and so that mission was accomplished. And so, you know. But anyway, so let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I was, you know, considering using some other language in there, but I chose not to, at least for the next 25 seconds. Representative Greene slammed for comparing House COVID restrictions to the Holocaust. Okay, let's move on. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is being widely lambasted, okay, for comparing the continuing coronavirus restrictions in the U.S. Capitol, not like the whole country, but specifically in the Capitol. Right, like the institution where people are elected, right, that have positions of power, go for work. Like, it's not like this is like, you know, the whole entire country. No, this is just like like work with like a couple thousand people. In a recent appearance on Real America's Voices Network, The Water Cooler with David Brody, a conservative show, Greene complained about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's recent decision to keep a mask mandate on the House floor over concerns that many Republican lawmakers might not be vaccinated. Didn't they vaccinate like all members of the House in like November or December or something? Oh my God. This woman is mentally ill, Greene said, referring to Pelosi. You know, we can look back in a time in history where people were told to wear a gold star, and they were definitely treated like second-class citizens. So much so that they were put into trains. I just want to be very clear. This is not me saying this. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were put into trains and taken to gas chambers in Nazi Germany, and this is exactly the type of abuse that Nancy Pelosi is talking about. What? Greene was erroneously referring to the Yellow Star of David that most Jews under Nazi rule were ordered to wear. Earlier in the podcast, Brody balked at Pelosi's recent suggestion that unvaccinated GOP lawmakers who didn't want to wear a mask should vote in a separate gallery off of the House floor. I think she's talking segregation. That's right. I said it. Okay. Y'all. We need to have this conversation. There is a party that tried to literally overthrow the entire country. They tried... Again, I know, right? Like, this sounds crazy. Especially given that nothing happened. Like, especially given that literally nothing came out of this, right? It sounds crazy. You'd think if something like this were to have happened, right? Like, clearly something would have been done. But we have a political party that literally tried to end the United States of America. They tried to destroy the country and institute a monarchy on January 6th. Like, I know, it's crazy. Right? And then nothing happened, of course. Right? Like, what? Like, okay, so they tried to overthrow and destroy the country and institute monarchy, and then they all got away with it? Nothing happened? Yes, that's exactly... Right? But you need to understand, these motherfuckers are out of control. Like, I mean, seriously, and here's the thing, it doesn't matter if they believe this stuff. I think Marjorie does believe this. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is indicative of the average Republican voter that is this crazy. Now, I think that Trump knows that this shit is crazy and isn't himself personally all the way crazy. Now, I do think he's got his own little narcissistic, kind of interaction with this, and I do think he is partially crazy, but I think even he recognized that a lot of this stuff is just absolutely crazy. Right? But Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is the exact representation of that Trump voter who actually believes all of it. Like, I know when you think to yourself, like, you hear all the QAnon bullshit, you think to yourself, dude, there's no way that they actually believe that shit. Marjorie Taylor Greene is that person who actually believes all that shit. And that's why, like, again, like, I love talking about her because you need to know where the Republican Party is right now. Like, I mean, like, again, like, these people, like... 80% of Republicans think that Donald Trump is the real winner of the election. He's not. Joe Biden won the election. By a lot. By a landslide. He won the election by a shitload. Right? At least, popular vote-wise. Electorally, it was a little bit closer than it should have been. But, hey, whatever. But the 80% of Republicans, just, whatever. Wait, what? Right? There was this poll, and I will be citing this poll for the rest of my life. Right? There was this poll when the coronavirus pandemic started that found that 50% of Republicans in swing states, now again, the numbers could be different nationally, but it was like, a thing with like, whatever. Right? It was like, grouped with a different poll or whatever. 50% of Republicans in swing states as of like April or May 2020 do not wash their hands. Look it up. They don't wash their hands. Right? So I just I want you to know that there's like a through line here of like, these people are dumb motherfuckers. Like, they are not in the same world that we are in. Right? They operate and they live in an entirely separate reality. And that is so fascinating to me. Like, they live their whole lives in a different world. Like, they don't live on planet Earth. They don't live in the USA as it's constituted. They live in a fantasy world. They live in their own heads. And I wish I could live in my own head. I wish I was so privileged, right, that I could just exist without, like, having to worry about, like, my worldview being changed by, like, external stimuli. But again, these motherfuckers are crazy. And it's not like they're just, like, out of control and wacky. It's not like, these are your, like, crazy grandma who's, like, going through dementia, who's, like, forgot that she, isn't in the 1950s anymore and, like, is saying some racist shit. Right? That's not the position that we're in right now. Right? We are in a position where a political party with actual strength and power in the United States actually almost and got relatively close. Now, I don't think that they, but I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? With Trump in power at the time, who knows? I don't know. Right? But they made significant headway into overthrowing and ending the United States of America as we know it. Like, this isn't like just like, fucking someone chilling in their retirement home that, is pretty crazy and, whatever. These are actually people that are actually dangerous. And again, look at the police force. The police force is an extension of these people. 80% of police voted for Donald Trump. So look at what happened with Andrew Brown's assassination by police, right? 80% of those cops voted for Donald Trump. 40% of those cops beat their spouses, right? And you can look at all these other reports and statistics, right? And so these cops also disproportionately are crazy. 80% of them want to overthrow democracy. 40% of them don't even care about their family members. They want to abuse and beat their own family. Right? These people are not they're not normal, they're not sane, they're not emotionally stable, they're crazy. And they're an extension of the crazy that is the Republican Party and is the Republican voter. And I need to be very clear, there is a difference between the party and the voter. Right? The Republican Party is a terrorist organization. Full stop. Full stop. But the Republican voter is a confused, lonely, and fucking just absolutely insanely selfish, narcissistic psychopath. That is the Republican voter. Like, I'm sorry, when 80% of the party just doesn't agree that the election, about the election, I'm sorry, but you don't live in the same world. When 80% of the party thinks that Trump rightfully won the election, and that same big lie is what led them to trying to overthrow the entire system of fucking governance, right? I'm sorry, but that is psychosis. In a very serious fashion, that is psychosis. You know what I mean? And it's what the fuck? And you need to understand the fucking mindset of the Republican voter is just, they live in a different world. So, even if they lived in our world and their desires were the same, they wanted to institute an ethno-state, they wanted to kill all poor people, they wanted to kill trans and gay people, they want to kill people of color, they want to, do all that stuff. If those desires were the exact same, but their understanding of reality were any different, right? The whole calculus would be changed. Right? The whole calculus would be changed. But it's the combination of the fact that they do not live in reality. Some of them do. Right? Like I said, you got the 20% that do live in reality and have their desires are aligned, right? But most of them don't. But when you have the combination where the driving factor of this party, of this terrorist organization, the driving factor are people that don't even, not only do they not have a license to drive, but they don't even know what a car is. And I need you to, I'm trying to institute a way for you to understand this. They don't even know what the hell they're in. They don't know that they're in a vehicle that can move, and they don't know how the vehicle can move. They are driving a terrorist organization with real political power into doing some very dangerous stuff, and they have no fucking clue what they're doing. Right? And so that is most, illustriously representative in Marjorie Taylor Greene. She is just a clueless, dumb fuck for brains, loser idiot who says whatever the fuck someone else DMs her on Twitter or on Gab or on fucking Parler. She just says it because she's a fucking moron. And then you've got, again, she is a moron, but she is indicative of the 80% of the Republican Party that thinks that Donald Trump is the real rightful president. Those people are fucking crazy. And she is that representative, right? 80% of the Republican Party's elected officials are not that crazy, right? But 80% of the base, that's a whole different story. And that 80% is represented in Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's the thesis of my video. The small c conservatives have a party already. The Democrats, exactly. Only the real psychos vote Republican, and yet it's nearly, I know, right? It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to, over the course of the next week, because what's today? Sunday? Over the course of the next week, I will be doing some, slight changes in the way that I operate. This is the part of my job where I get to lay down. Hell yeah, bro. But I'm gonna go back to doing longer shows. I'm gonna go back to getting into some more internet drama. I'm gonna go back into doing some more news stories, right? And I wanna, get the ball rolling on that front again. While also simultaneously still providing the local news coverage of Elizabeth City and the protests and the rapidly evolving story of that. I also want to do some more non-talk show streaming as well. And so, like, that's stuff that's going to be happening. And I might need to be bullied into properly going through, you know, these steps that I've already, you know, decided I want to go through. But, you know, I'll get there. And, yeah. What's up, y'all? I don't know. How you doing? What's up? How's it going? Abner, at least she's out in the open. Just imagine what's going on behind the scenes. I as someone who has, like, Republicans in my family, right? As someone that has Republicans in my family, imagine what they're saying behind the scenes. Bitch, motherfucker. I mean, like, they're crazy. They're crazy. Like, they're just fucking crazy. Vibe check, fantastic. Doom, yes, I will play some Doom. And yes, I will be extremely, extremely, extremely adorable and amazing while playing Doom and doing adjacent talk shows and more other content. Like, that's all, like, it's all gonna happen, folks. Right? Like, let me tell you, I had a lot of plans before the protest started in regards to growing this show. Now, a lot of those plans got sidetracked by the protests, right? But they're not gone. The plans are not gone. They're just in hibernation, right? And so I want to bring the plans back, and I want to get back into expanding the universe here a little bit. And, you know, what are you going to do? I'm trying to, like, get comfortable here, but this pillow is defying all physical boundaries of reality and moving in a way that it shouldn't. But yeah, so I will be doing some more longer shows in the morning again. And I will be covering more topics. And that's kind of the situation that we're dealing with. That's the world that we live in. I will also be drinking this motherfucking coffee, so check this out. And yes, feel free to bully me in private, in public. Feel free to bully me because I need that kind of motivation. So oh no, we're not stopping the protests, buddy. It's just that the protests are a little, like, redundant, and I feel like I say very similar things every day, and I feel like I need to say them every single day, and I feel like there needs to be that content that needs to exist. It has to exist, right? And I am one of the only, if not the only person that is capable of doing this. That is to say, like, protest coverage from this perspective, right? So I feel like it is a responsibility of mine to do it every single day. That being said, I understand and I recognize that, you know, things are not changing, you know, and it's not necessarily the most entertaining content for people that do not live here. And so I want to, you know, get back into providing that little, you know, in other words, I'll take the words of Donald Trump up here.
In my opinion, it's never too late.
It's never too late, folks.
So, little double sound deck. So that's the story, fellas.
That's the story, fellas. Can you shit on Greg Abbott for me, Queen? Fuck Greg Abbott. All my homies hate Greg Abbott. Where's the family, Laura? What's up with him? I mean, they seem pretty decent. You know how it is. Anyway, folks, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. Bye-bye. Also, look at my fucking arms. Like, look at that shit. Look at that. Like, I know there's, like, the shadow of, like, the light here. But, like, look at my arms. Look at the tan that I've got going on here. Like, isn't that crazy? That's out of control. Anyway, folks, that's it. That's the show. That's all I got. I gotta turn my fucking air conditioner on. Like, Jesus fucking goddamn Christ. It's so fucking hot in here. Like, I'm literally melting. Like, I'm about to die. You know, like, right now, like, my body is like this.
And he's like this, and we were, I need water, help me, I need water, help. And he's right, this is on live television, and he's like this, and we were,
going on a side quest for the air
I need water, help me, I need water.
Oh Lord, I forgot to take my medication today.
And he's right, this is on live television, and he's like this, and we were, I need water, help me, I need water, help. And he's right, this is on live television,
live on stream,
and he's like this,
I should probably turn that off. Just change it up a little bit. What do we got here? What do we got here? Let's see, what do we got? Oh, I know.
We've ended the war on American energy. We were in war. And we've ended the war on beautiful, clean coal, one of our great natural resources.
Again, I'm telling you, these motherfuckers live in a different world. I mean, Lord knows.
Everybody comes in your grandmother, everybody comes in your grandmother, your father, your mother, your brother, your cousins. Everybody comes in your grandmother, your father, your mother, your brother, your cousins. They come in so easily, so crazy, so crazy. Everybody comes in your grandmother.
And then they have cans of soup. And they throw the cans of soup. That's better than a brick because you can't throw a brick, it's too heavy. But a can of soup, you can really put some power into that, right? And then when they get caught, they say, yo, this is soup from my family. They're so innocent. This is soup from my family. It's incredible. And you have people coming over with bags of soup, big bags of soup, and they lay it on the ground, and the anarchists take it and they start throwing it at our cops, at our police.
But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great